friends, I'm going to make a video here of this old car I've had since September the 11th, 1991. Put a car cover on it several months ago, and I had cranked this car since probably first week of July. And I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm going to let you try to figure out what kind of car this is sitting here. Now, all my buddies and friends, they know what kind of car it is, but if you don't know me, see if you got an idea of what kind of car this is sitting underneath this car cover right here. My daughter, Catherine, she's the camera girl. She's running the camera right now. And anybody got an idea what it could be? It's kind of hard to tell what a car is underneath the car cover, but I'm going to let you see right here. All right, Catherine, let's reveal it for them. Here comes Precious. Here's our cat Precious. All righty. It's an 87 Monte Carlo Super Sport. So, hadn't cranked in about 2.5 months, so we're going to get it cranked here. The car cover I got here came from carcovers.com. I really like it. It's not the most expensive one, but it's not the cheapest one. And so, I really like this car cover. And maybe you want to invest in one too. I'll pay about $150 for this one. Okay, well, next time we're going to try to, this thing comes with a lock, and we're going to try to unlock it. It's on the other side where all the cobwebs are. And we'll try to unlock it and show you how the car cover comes off. Alright, thanks for watching. This one has got a safety cable or security cable on it. It also kind of holds it in place. And it comes with a lock key, obviously. So we're going to unlock it to take the cable back out from underneath the car to be able to take the car cover off. So, pretty simple. I really not like this type of setup. It's the only one I've ever had that came with a cable. Alright, let's back up, Catherine. We'll pull that cable across over there. So, pull this cable out over here. I'm going to pull it down here just about like that, out of the way. Then I start unrolling it. I don't know if there's really a way to start it from the front or the rear. I'm just going to start from the front today. This thing, good gracious. I got my cobwebs and Carter's got living here. Oh, jeez. We're going to have to get us a broom to brush off the cobwebs. I don't want to roll the cobwebs up on top of this thing. Alrighty, let me find us a broom around here. My mother-in-law may have rode it home. I'm not sure. Alright. We'll be back in just a second. Okay, I got some of the cobwebs off the side of the car and car cover over there. I'm just going to roll this thing up. Took my antenna off, so I didn't have to put a hole in the car cover. They give you a patch with it, but I did not know the antenna would come off. And I've had this car 29 years and didn't know you could just unscrew the antenna off. And I've always put holes in the car cover and then put the patch in it, but I just laid this just so it wouldn't tear the car cover on the sharp part of the antenna base. So we'll just roll this thing off. Back in July, I spent about a whole day and a half cleaning this car up, washing it and waxing it. Boy, did it need it. And I think it turned out pretty good. The paint on this car, I've had it painted, I think it was 2003 when I had it repainted. And then it's been touched up several other times since then. Just things, my dad backed into it and creamed it on the passenger side. So I had that fixed, and a few other places I had to have it go back over again. And but the old car, it needs tires and brakes. It needs to be gone through again. Do a good major tune-up to it. The tires on this thing, bought when I was in Bible college in Kentucky in 2006. These are 13 years old. They're dry rotted. They're splitting now, and it's just not safe to drive on the highway at all. And also had an issue when I was driving it. I think it's vapor locking because that's fine around town, but if you drive it a long distance, you'll be running down the interstate and it'll just quit running. But it starts right back up. You don't have to crank it or nothing, just cut off. If you stop and get gas somewhere, it won't crank back. And I've used cans of ether to get it cranked back, and it just, to me, I think it is vapor locking, but I'm not a mechanic. But I had a problem with it in the early 90s. I only had this thing about a year or so, and the limited intake on it had cracked. And so I had a friend who worked for a Chevrolet dealership, and he came and put a new intake on, but he said what they were doing with those cars, the limited intakes, they were replacing them with cast iron intakes. So I wonder if that cast iron and then the gaskets in the carburetor dried up so much that it's starting to boil gas and vapor locking the car. So that's just a theory I have. It could be the sending unit, new fuel pump, carburetor. Obviously, after 30 years, it needs to be rebuilt. So, alrighty, we're gonna try to get this thing to crank. I keep a battery tender on it all the time. Probably one of the best things I've ever invested in is a battery tender to kind of hold my battery from going bad. So, I have to open the hood here to unhook the battery tender from it. Yeah. Alright. Handy to have it out right here on the side of the wall. Handy dandy. Right there. So, this battery tender off right here. I really like this when you can just pull these apart, this adapter apart right there real easy. Drop it out from underneath the car. Only thing, it's got more cobwebs and already got liver pills. Goodness gracious. So we lay this over here on the rabbit's house. It's home for our rabbit called Marshmallow. But it's all original. The motor's not been touched other than having the swap out the intake, and it's like I said, it's a GM intake, cast iron. All I've ever done to the motor, I've had the valves adjusted. Goodness gracious, 17, 18 years ago. But just changed plugs and wires, air conditioner, compressor, with batteries, and that's all I've ever done to the motor. The motor smokes and it needs to be gone through. When I bought the car in 1991, it had about 43,000 miles on it. Now it's probably got 168, 69,000 miles on it. And but when it runs, it runs good. Alrighty. Thank you for watching. We'll be back here in just a second. Got to move a car or two to get this one out. Alright, we're going to try to get this thing to crank here. And it's still got the original, well, it's not the original one. I changed out 3 or 4 times fuel pump on it. So it'll take a little while to get some fuel up here. Oh, we get it to crank right here. Let's see here what she does. Pumping on gas and carburetor. Here we go. It's alive! It's got a manifold exhaust leak right side the motor, but when it warms up, after it gets good warm and hot, then that manifold expands and it tightens back up, and it's fine after that. So, well, it runs. Wish I could drive the old car. It'd be my daily driver, but I got a lot of work to do on the thing to make it dependable. Obviously, tires, brakes need pretty bad, and trace down. How come it will run and just die on me at times? But if I had to do over, I would never, ever, ever have bought a T-top car. When I was 19, I was looking for one of these cars, and I called a fellow that I knew who had a Monte Carlo 84. It's a hardtop car, and he said, Eric, don't buy a T-top car. Well, I was 19 and I knew everything then, and I wanted a T-top car, and I looked for a year for a car like this. Of course, I bought it now. I wish I had never, ever bought a T-top car because they leak like a sieve. It doesn't matter. I think you can weld the glasses in and it still leak like a sieve. But I've changed the weather, stripping around the T-tops, bought the kit twice, and of course had the car 29 years, and it just leaks. But let me tell you a story about this car here. We're gonna get on the other side, and you can see the other side of it. Let me tell you how I bought this car. Step over here, Caroline. Maybe they can still hear me. We'll step back up here a little ways so they can hear me. All right, and you can turn around that way and look toward me. I decided I want a Monte Carlo. I was looking for a Monte Carlo, looked for about a year for one. Found a couple of them that were hard tops, but I wanted one that was white with red stripes and maroon interior and T-top car. And I wanted a low mileage car. And so I called a dealership in 1990, around September 1990, and I told one of the salesmen, I said, here's what I'm looking for. And he said, well, Eric, golly jeepers, he said, I just sold one about 8 months ago, and I sold that thing for like $12,500. He said it was nice, low mileage, T-top car, white with red interior. I said, well, if you run across another one like that, then let me know, and I'd like to buy the thing. So I kept looking for one, and so it was around Labor Day weekend that my dad was looking for a truck, and been on vacation that weekend, and we come through Boone, North Carolina, and they were having a car sale at the fairgrounds in Boone, North Carolina, and Dad knew the dealer who had a new car dealership, a Toyota dealership, and so Dad stopped in there to look for a truck. And well, he come out, I stayed in the car, I wasn't ever interested in it, and he come out and said, Eric, there's a Monte Carlo in there like you've been looking for one. So I got out of the car, walked in there and looked at it, and took it for a test drive. And Dad talked to his friend who was the owner of the dealership, and he told me how much he'd take for it, and said, all right, okay, I'll get back with you. So I almost had all the money together to buy it, pay cash for it. But I liked it a little bit, so I borrowed some other money from my grandmother, and put my money together and went up there the following Friday to pay cash for the car. And because I was working in Boone at that time, I was working for a local contractor, and we were wiring the Kmart in Boone, North Carolina. And so after work one day, the guy I was working for, he just drove me over to the dealership on a Friday. I picked it up and drove it home. And so I've had it ever since. It's been my favorite car. I always wanted this car. Other than a 55 Chevrolet, my favorite desirable car, it's this car that I like to drive every day. So I've driven this car, goodness gracious. I put over 150,000 miles on this car. I've had it in Washington, D.C., had it in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, Charleston, South Carolina. My camera there ran out of memory, so let's start all over. Well, we won't start that far over, but I've had that car since then, drove it a whole lot. And originally I bought it to go dating in because at the time, all I had to drive was a 62 Chevrolet Impala, two-door hardtop, had no air conditioner whatsoever. It was a rust bucket, let me tell you that was for sure. So I bought this car, but gosh, I didn't get married till 2004. But been a good old car. I actually wrecked it, hit a car at about 25 miles an hour, ran into it because there was a fire on the side of the highway. I was watching a fire truck come up a 4-lane highway, and a fireman fighting a fire over on the side of the highway in the woods. And somebody just stopped dead still, on a 4-lane highway, came to an absolute complete stop. When I looked, it was too late, and I hit him, and kicked the right front fender, and kicked it. So that's the only thing that we replaced. As far as seat belts not original on the car, we had to replace that fender. The nose cone was pushed in, and it came right back into place when they unbolted it. Didn't even break the headlights. So didn't even bust the radiator. I did change the condenser coil on it at the time. So got a good wax job on it. It's slick, really, really slick. And so hope to. I don't know when I can get it back on the road driving every day. It's just I got other things I gotta do. Got to put tires on my minivan. I'm ashamed I have to drive a minivan, but I'm thankful it's paid for and it runs and drives. But I gotta get tires on that Tuesday, and that goes ahead of everything else. But well, that's my old Monte Carlo. It's an '88 Monte Carlo 305. Original engine, original transmission, original wheels. Radio interior is exactly as it came out of the factory. But they're weak cars. They really are kind of a weak car. They don't have they should have had a 350 in it, and 305 was just not enough. To me, not enough power to move a big car like that. But back in the 80s, GM was not building cars with any power whatsoever. And a Corvette, 88 Corvette, only came out probably about 250, maybe 275 horsepower. And so this only has about 195 horsepower on paper. It might have a little bit more. They didn't want to advertise this car having more power than the Camaros. So that's it. All right, thank you for watching. Take care. Hey friends, yesterday we did our video and then I edited it last night, and then I forgot several things and left some things out. And when the memory went dead in the camera there that my daughter Catherine was using, then I lost my memory too, and I didn't finish the story about how I bought this car. And then I remembered some other details and some of my facts were wrong, but let me just give you a little overview. That I'd looked for about a year for an '88 Monte Carlo, white, with T-tops and red and low mileage. And I had called a dealer about one and talked to him. They had two hardtop cars sitting on their lot, but I was looking for a T-top, and I told him what I wanted. And that was in probably January of '91. And he told me then that he had just sold a car. Actually, it's probably in February or March of '91. He said he just sold a car about a month or two before that was really, really, really nice. Low mileage, a nice looking car for $12,500. Well, anyway, when I bought my car, this '88 Monte Carlo, it didn't have any floor mats in the car. And I said, where are they? And they said, well, the person that bought the car or traded it in, they took the floor mats with them and the covers for the T-tops, which is the craziest thing in the world. Why would they want that? So they bought a new Toyota truck. So they gave me that guy's phone number, and I called him up. He had the T-top boots that they called them, and he had the floor mats. And so I went and bought him a set of floor mats to get my original floor mats back for this car. And I asked him where he bought the car, and he said, Tom Brooks Chevrolet. And I said, when did you buy it? He said, about 8 months ago. And I said, what did you pay for it? He said, $12,500. So that was the exact car that dealer was talking to me about. I actually bought it 8 months later for $9,500. The dealer that he traded in on gave him $9,000, and so the dealer just made $500 on the sale. So I thought it was a pretty good deal. A few other things that I forgot to mention about this car is that this car runs hot. When I would have it driving in the early 90s, it would run hot, especially sitting in traffic. And it wouldn't boil over, but it would be up around about 210, 220. And so I took it to a radiator shop, and we put a new radiator in it that had more cores in it. And also I took out the thermostat. I think it was set like 195 thermostat, and I put a 185 in it. I'm not so sure, that's been so many years ago, if it's still that way. But I remember driving it in city streets and things like that, and having to set it. It was hot in summer, and the air conditioning running, it would run hot. And so I've had that fixed and hadn't had any more trouble with that. Had some trouble with the transmission. I feel like the transmission didn't shift exactly right at times, and I'm not a mechanic, but I took it to a fella who was one of the best transmission guys in my hometown, Lenore, North Carolina, and he drove it quite a bit one day, and he was explaining to me that there's an adjustment on where you can set the RPMs for the shift points on the transmission, and he said the transmission's not right. Something's wrong with that transmission. It's not right, but if you don't mess around with it and jerk it around, it'll last you a while. So that's been at least about 25 years ago. That was the same time that actually I remember that I had the valves adjusted on it, and when we had the valves adjusted on it, they also changed the fuel pump and the fuel pump rod, and the fuel pump rod was worn, so we suspected even about 22, 25 years ago that the cam was wearing on it. But haven't had any trouble with the transmission. I've been easy with it. I haven't really driven this car really fast. A few times I got on it, but I don't drive fast. I'm 49 years old now. I have no desire whatsoever to drive over 75 miles an hour, even on the interstate. So I never got a ticket in this car. I never got pulled over in this car in my life. And so I try to take care of it, be kind of easy with it, and not tear it up. It's been a good car. So there's a little bit more. We already put the car cover on it yesterday, and so it's kind of a big deal to get the car cover on setting just right. And so thought I'd just give you a little update on this thing. I figured probably about $1,500, $2,000 to go through the car, work on the front end, replace some probably ball joints and bushings. It might even need a steering box replaced, and I can probably get it back up on the road, and it'll be a good, dependable car. All righty. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.